Hi folks, Canadian Prepper here. So today we're going to be talking about sending off-grid text messages after the proverbial crap hits the fan. Let's get to it. So a couple years ago I listened to an audiobook called Cyberstorm. And the whole plot of that book was that there was a cyber attack on New York City and it took out the power grid. And basically, within the span of a couple months or something to that effect, the city had basically devolved into the lowest of the low of post-apocalyptic, cannibalistic nastiness that you could imagine. And the survivors in the cities weren't your run-of-the-mill hunter-gatherers. They actually developed this mesh network type system where they used their cell phones, but they could only transmit, I think they used Wi-Fi or something like that, whereby one phone could communicate with the next phone and the phones would act as relays. So you could send a message across the city as long as there were enough relays to get the message there between you and them. So maybe there was 100 phones between you and the other side of town, and that text message that you sent would relay and route through all of those other phones and get to the person you wanted it to. So it was like a post-apocalyptic communications grid that they developed. And there's a lot of technologies that can actually do that. There's a product that's been on the market for a few years called the GoTenna Mesh system. And it basically does that very thing. Basically, everybody gets a device which acts as a transmitter on the network. So this means that you can extend your communication range over great distances so long as you have enough nodes in the network connecting each other. Now this functions in a similar way. It's a lot cheaper than the GoTenna Mesh system, which I haven't tried yet, but I've heard some good things about it. This is kind of more of a peer-to-peer thing, so you can actually have multiple people using these radios and communicating via text message, but it doesn't have that relay component. Now, these do boast a longer range, 20 miles to send text under ideal conditions. Of course, that's all going to be contingent on line of sight. Whenever you see range claims on the boxes of these FRS or GMRS radios, you need to understand that that's under the most ideal of conditions, meaning that you have a perfect line of sight to the target. It's peak to peak. Basically, if you're transmitting from high to low and you can see your target, you may, under very, very ideal circumstances, be able to transmit a intelligible signal under those conditions. But it's still very unlikely. In most cases, in the city or in the forest where there's a lot of obstacles that are going to get in the way of the signal, or there may be a lot of other electrical interference in the way, which is the case in the city, then you're likely only going to be getting a couple kilometers to maybe 5 miles maximum. Now, the benefit with the text messaging system is that it's asynchronous, meaning you may not get the text message right away, but when you do, when the signal is strong enough to send it or it finds a way through, you're going to get the full message, unlike some jumbled, staticky mess that you're going to get when you're trying to communicate via audio. Now, what are the uses for something like this for preppers? Well, I think the primary use is going to be for people who actually live off-grid or out of cell phone range. And until Elon Musk is able to make Starlink a reality, if you don't know what that is, basically it's going to be satellite internet for everybody on the planet. Until that becomes a reality, which is probably 5 to 10 years off, I'm guessing, this is probably going to be a viable alternative in terms of sending text messages off grid. So basically you're using your phone as a modem to send little packets of information, be they text messages or GPS location information, across the radio waves. And you can do that no matter where you are on the planet. One of the benefits of doing this, of course, is that it's stealthy. I think that's going to be the main use for something like this. In addition to people who might use it for hunting and you don't want to, have to whisper into your walkie-talkie or use an earpiece, you can communicate via text message. That could be one potential use for something like this. Obviously, there's a lot of tactical applications. However, if your eyes are occupied by your phone or your walkie-talkie, then of course that's taking your eyes off whatever it is you probably should be focused on. So that's one drawback to it. But I do think there's a lot of potential for this technology, and I do think for some people, especially if you live off the grid, it may be practical for you to have this. If you don't want to maybe necessarily talk to your person in real time, then you can send them a text message, a coherent one, an intelligible one. When they get it, they're going to understand it, and they can respond in any way that they need to. Now, we tested these out in terms of range. We didn't go to the maximum ranges. We kept it quite reasonable. I tested it 2 kilometers across town with very good results, and I tested it a little bit longer range, 4 kilometers, in an open landscape, just to see what the outcome would be. Okay, so now we're coming at it at around 400 meters. So let's see what happens. Testing, do you copy?
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Okay, so now we're about 600 meters out. We still have a line of sight to the other person, so there's not many obstructions in the way. So let's see what sort of reception we have. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Do you copy?
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3.
So excellent quality at 600 meters. As you would expect, they do say it's a 35-mile walkie-talkie. Now, I'm getting a little impatient, so we're gonna go a greater distance this time. We're gonna push it out to over 1 kilometer and see what happens. All right, so this time we're gonna cheat a little bit. We're standing on top of the truck. We're about 1 mile away now. Let's see what kind of reception we get. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Do you copy?
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Okay, so it looks like we got really good reception at about 1.5 kilometers and a little bit staticky, but still quite doable. There is a hill obstructing the view now between me and the target, so it's not surprising that we're getting a bit of static, but that's reasonable. Now, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put a bunch of buildings in front of me and the target, and we're gonna see what kind of reception we get. Okay, so now we are about 2 kilometers from the target, plus there are several obstructions in between me and the target, namely buildings, lots of power lines, lots of telephone lines, lots of interference. So let's see what happens. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Okay, so that was still rather intelligible. Lots of static that time, but still pretty impressed. Now, obviously I'm standing on a truck, so the higher you are, the better the signal is going to be. The more you can increase that line of sight connection, the better the signal is going to be. Now, I'm guessing that because we still have such a great audio connection, that our texting is also going to work. So let's try that out. All right, so this is at 2 kilometers, and we have a lot of urban interference. We got lots of block parties going on because everybody's been stir crazy because of the pandemic, and they're all letting loose this weekend. We got about 2 kilometers of residential in between us here. So our channel is currently experiencing interference. Okay, so here at 2 kilometers, it looks as though All American Prepper is causing a ruckus. So we're gonna have to go help them out. Some snowflakes are in need of help, so we must go. Okay, so now we're really gonna be putting this device to the test. Right now I'm standing on a hill, which is pretty prominent to the surrounding landscape. I would say it's about 30 or 40 feet elevated, and our target is in that direction, about 4 kilometers. So let's see what kind of reception we get. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3.
So as you can see, the prominence of your position has a lot of bearing on how good the reception is going to be. So the more you can approximate a good line of sight with the target, obviously the better the reception is going to be, because that wave signal has to travel, and if it's intercepted by a variety of obstacles. The more obstacles in front of it, especially other radio waves and frequencies, that's going to create a lot of interference. But it appears to work for that purpose. Now we're going to try to send a text message. Okay, so it appears as though we've successfully transmitted a couple texts and a location pin from the target that's over there right now. Now, I don't have the time to do more aggressive field testing in the thicket of trees, but I can ascertain that from broadcasting across town a couple kilometers, I'm quite confident that this is going to work in a wilderness setting, especially if you can get some prominence in the landscape and try to achieve a greater line of sight. The better the line of sight, the easier it's going to transmit. The great thing about the texting is that it's all stealth. And even though it's asynchronous, meaning it's not going to be transmitted in real time, it's still going to give you a clear, concise message that you can actually read, that's intelligible. Because there's going to be times when your radio signal is not going to be that good, or it's going to be broken up, or it's just going to compromise your operational security. So I think technology like this, even though I would still say it has a way to go, right now in its current form is still very functional. And I do like the feature where you can pin the location of the other parties. You can also do tracking as well. So that's pretty cool. I'm guessing that you could easily get 20 kilometers range out of these under the right conditions. I don't know about, the 50 kilometers that they're saying. Maybe. It's quite possible that you could, but I would never wage my life on something like that. So I'm not going to go into too great detail about the specs and all that, but I will show you generally how they work and some of their features. So one radio pairs with one phone. So if there's 4 people in your party, you're going to need 4 radios, and they're all going to have cell phones to use the text-based communication feature. Now it has a nice removable belt clip, which is going to really come in handy if you're using this in the field. You're going to want that clip because for obvious reasons you're going to want the speaker exposed so it's audible, so you're not going to want it in your pocket or somewhere where you might miss the message. So that's why it's good to have it outside. I would normally carry it in the front of my backpack strap. And you can also put it on a belt loop, whatever you want. You could take that off when not in use. So you can see I've labeled this radio here because this is going to be paired via Bluetooth with this phone. That pairing is going to be automatic. So right when I turn this radio on, so long as the Bluetooth is on my phone, they will be immediately paired. And the pairing is actually really good. It's really fast. Now, unfortunately, these take nickel metal hydride batteries. They don't take lithium batteries. That's one gripe I have. However, there is one benefit to that, and that's this. You can take these out, and you can put 3 AAA batteries in there if you need to. So you can recharge this via USB. It's still rechargeable. You don't need an AC adapter or a dock to charge these batteries. You can charge it direct from a solar panel or from a portable battery source. This is the Zendur 10,000 milliamp hour. We sell Zendur products at CanadianPreparedness.com. In my opinion, Zendur, in terms of smaller battery packs, is probably one of the top of the line. And Nightcore also sells this super slim battery pack, 10,000 milliamp hours, Qualcomm charging, so it's rapid charging. Another really cool carbon fiber, really lightweight. So those are some good options. You can actually use your lithium to charge this, is basically what I'm saying. But if you don't have that, you can use the nickel metal hydride batteries, which are far more ubiquitous. You can find them at any corner store, any old cabin in the woods. I'm sure might have a few kicking it around if you stumble across one. The screen here is actually a hidden screen, and when you turn it on, it's got the LED illumination. This is going to be good at nighttime, but it's not going to be as good as an LCD screen would be, or an LED screen. Is it LED or LCD? I can't remember. Jeez, it's too late. It's like 1 in the morning, guys. Give me a break. So it's not going to be as good during the day in really bright light. Now, like I said, it's going to immediately pair up with my phone. I'm going to go into the features of that right when I turn it on. So you have your channels, you have your various modes that you can shift through here. Like I say, I'm not going to go through all of that. I'm not going to bore you with all those details. So right now we're basically on channel 1. We're operating at high wattage output, which is 2 watts, which is obviously not that high at all. But for family radio service, you don't need a license, so you don't have to worry about any of the legalities. Now, when a shit hits the fan situation, are you going to be concerned with that? I'll let you decide what you're going to do about that. but most of the time you're probably going to end up using the high power, but that's going to drain your battery faster than if you're using the low power. So if you are in close proximity to people in your party, you may not need to use that, so it's worth considering using the lower 1 watt power. Now there is a flashlight on there as well, which is actually surprisingly bright. I'd say it's probably around 50 lumens, which by today's standards isn't much, but consider that 15 years ago that was probably the brightest flashlight you could find at Crappy Tire. So not bad at all. There's a Bluetooth pairing button. Like I say, you're probably only going to have to pair this thing once, and it's going to remember the phone it's paired with. Never going to have to do it again. There's an emergency alert button here. If you hold that down for a few seconds. So it's going to send out a distress signal with all of your information to all the members of your group. It's going to send your GPS whereabouts. It's going to send obviously who it's from and any emergency info that you have previously inputted into the device. This is IPX4 water resistant, not waterproof. It can sustain a pretty good downpour. You could leave this out in the rain. It's not going to be destroyed, although I certainly wouldn't recommend doing that. But you could do that. And it comes with a design which you can attach to your Molly system or a carabiner or what have you. So going into the app here, I'm going to turn this on. Radio disconnected, as you can see, and we're just going to turn the Bluetooth on. Right now it's off. Turn the Bluetooth on. Should connect pretty soon. Get rid of those Instagram notifications. There we go. So we're connected right away. Easy peasy. As you can see, my one contact here is the All-American Prepper, and he's been sending me locations and text messages, like he's talking about how Urban Prepper is harboring illegals and these snowflake marauders don't stand a chance. Crazy guy, crazy. But I tell you, if the Canadian government keeps banning Baofeng radios and all the other stuff that they're banning, I may have to go down there and bunk with the All-American Prepper, even though I think he'd probably end up calling ICE on me by the end of the week if I didn't pledge my full allegiance to make prepping great again. But like I say, it's that or Trudeau. So I guess I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. Okay, so getting back to the serious stuff here. So as you can see, this is really easy to use, intuitive. It looks a little scary at first, like most of these radios do. But you play with it for half an hour, you'll figure out most of what you need to figure out. So first thing there, just your profile. Next thing here is your members. So you can have as many members as there are radios in your party. Everyone is going to have their own Bluetooth paired phone, and you can create new groups on the basis of those. So if you only want to send a message to a certain amount of people in your group, you can send that. You want to send specific information to specific people, then you can do that. So you can actually download offline maps on here. It is going to dig into your memory quite a bit, so it does take a lot of memory. But if you know specifically where you want to go in advance, then you're going to want to download the maps before you go there, if you plan on using that GPS feature. Now, normally I use an app called Backcountry Navigator for that purpose. It's very detailed. It's probably the best 15 bucks you can ever spend. It basically turns your phone into a full-on GPS device, and you can download all types of topographical maps. You're going to want those topo maps if you're in a wilderness setting, and what that's going to help you to do is understand the elevation that you're at. So if you want to get to a place where you can better communicate via your radio, a topographical map that has the elevations is going to help you be able to do that, even though you could probably navigate pretty well just by looking at the landscape. But to have that might actually help, especially if you know where the other people are in relation to you. Then that can improve your line of sight and your communication. So you can download maps from across North America, I'm assuming across the world. And when you go to download them, you can download the outdoor, you can download satellite, you can download light, dark. But if you download satellite, that's going to be a lot of memory. So I would not advise that. You're talking about gigabytes if you want, substantial size regions. But if you know where you're going to be operating in, if it's just like 160 acres, then yeah, you could probably do a satellite. And there's a lot you can get from a satellite image. Even though you're not going to see the elevation necessarily, there's a lot of information you can get from a satellite. Anyway, so you can do that if you want. You can record your tracks, you can add location pins, you can do geofencing, You can add waypoints, all those things. So it's basically your run-of-the-mill GPS. There's radio settings, so you can change the channel that you're on. You can change a sub-channel. You can change a scanning feature. You can turn on vibration if you want, which I would not advise. It's going to take a lot of battery power, and it's kind of annoying, and it actually interferes when you're receiving an audio message. That's what you're going to hear while you're trying to hear through the static what the person is saying, so I would not advise that. You also got the weather here. Yeah, so that weather right now is in French for some reason. I don't know why. It just plays in French and English and back and forth. I'm not entirely sure. I don't usually normally use weather band. I look outside and, you know, maybe if there's a tornado, I would get that from the internet or the news. So I don't commonly use weather band. I'm sure there's some use for it. Here in emergency, you can add your emergency information, so your medical alerts, so like medical info, emergency contact, stuff like that. Stuff that people in your party probably already know about you already. So this is only going to send that out to people who are within your party. This is not going to send it out. You know, this can't transcend the network that you've created. It's not going to be able to send anything via satellite. Unless, of course, you have a cell signal, then you're not going to need this anyways. However, there are cases where cell service is pretty spotty, where this may be faster than spotty cell service. So in that scenario, when you're in the backwoods, you know, this might actually come in handy. And now you can also set yourself as a leader or a member. So a cool feature on this is that, say you have a bunch of people in your group. Well, if the leader wants to communicate with everybody at once, and somebody might have accidentally changed the channel that they're on, or maybe people are on different channels, the leader can control which channel everybody is on, and therefore you can send out a mass text message to everybody. Now you can also send out a shout, which is basically communicating with every member of the team at once. If you have an emergency signal, you know, everybody fall back or something like that, instead of messaging everybody individually, you can just send a shout out. If you go into the actual communication that I had here, this dialogue with All American Prepper, you can see he sent me a couple location pins, but all you need to know is that you can send a location pin as to where you are. And it's probably a good idea to do this every once in a while. So this is a very cool feature. Remember that the GPS on your phone is going to work if you have offline maps, even if you don't have a cell signal, because GPS is global. The only way GPS is not going to work is if the grid is down for a prolonged period of time. I think after 21 days, if the satellites can't continuously calibrate with the satellites on the ground or the relay stations, then they go out of whack and then the GPS system is no longer accurate. So in that case, you wouldn't be able to use GPS. But anything short of that, GPS is still going to function on your phone. This just allows you to communicate your exact location even if you're out of cell range. You can't do that with a normal walkie-talkie. In terms of the actual range of sending text messages, they say that it's going to be about half of what you would get if you were sending audio. I'm not technically savvy enough to understand why that is. Maybe it's because there's just not enough power to push that information out that far, but there's still enough power to send out an audio message. That could be it. All I know is that in my testing, I can attest to this, because even through 2 kilometers of urban interference with houses and radio waves and all that other stuff going through the air, I was still able to communicate with not much static. It was very intelligible, but it did take about 30 seconds delay to get the text message there. You're going to get the text message that you want to sent, and it's going to be as coherent and eloquent as the author is capable, but you're not going to get it as fast, hence it being asynchronous, whereas talking through one of these is in real time. But if it's a jumbled staticky mess, then it's not that useful. So the downside of the text messaging thing is that if there is an emergency, it's probably not the best way to communicate. You're probably still going to want to use the audio feature. That's really going to depend on the range and the amount of interference in between you and your target. So I must say that I am pretty impressed with the performance of the app. I thought it was going to be a lot more finicky. I didn't think it was going to be as responsive, but it's very easy to use. It's not a very large app, so it's not going to take up a lot of memory. And usually if things aren't large, that means there's not going to be long load times, and there's almost no load time to get it paired up with your walkie-talkie or to just perform any of the functions that you would need to on there. So I would give the app, honestly, like a 9 out of 10. I don't think there's many ways where it could be improved. It's very easy to use, very intuitive. Now, obviously, you have to have very modest expectations when using radios like this. These aren't Baofeng, ham radio, higher powered radios. You have to be realistic when you're using an FRS radio. Are they useful? Absolutely, they're useful because you can use them anytime with no license, and as such, it's going to allow you to get very acquainted with them. And it's that whole philosophy of fearing the man with one gun because he knows how to use it. If you become prolific at using something, even if it's not that good, if you understand its limits well and you know how to use it, then, you know, it's better than the fanciest tech that you're never going to use because you need a license to use it. You got to jump through all these hoops to use it, or you got to be an expert like Survival Technord or one of those guys, Comms Prepper. There's a lot of great comms channels out there, so I'm not proclaiming to be an expert in this field, but in terms of, from a layman's perspective, the effectiveness of these radios, I think they can be useful. Do I think they're for everybody? No, not really. I think these are for people who may live without a cell range primarily, or people who do a lot of hiking off grid, and it really isn't that hard, as hard as people think, to get off grid, well, at least in Canada anyways. There's a lot of places in Canada where there is no cell coverage, so something like this could actually be quite useful. And I would say that if you're going to have FRS radios, they may as well have this functionality. Now, that doesn't discount the primary utility of FRS radios, which is going to be audio communication. And there is a headset jack. I probably should have said that a lot sooner in the video. But yes, if you do want to do the whisper thing and have the sound just in your ear, then yes, you can do that. In a lot of ways, that's going to help you understand what's being said a lot better because you're not going to have the background noise interfering. But honestly, for a serious prepper, you're going to want to look into those other modes of communication, be they CB radio, ham radio, also looking at long range receivers like shortwave radios, things of that nature. Next week, I'm going to continue the series about the survival gear guide, and we're going to go in depth with respect to tech. That video is going to be all about prepping and survival tech, so stay tuned for that next Sunday. Let me know if you have any experience with these radios in the comment section and what that experience has been. Has it been positive? Has it been negative? Have they sucked? Have they exceeded your expectations? And if you've experimented with similar products, I'm curious to know. If you want to get these, we do sell Motorola products at CanadianPreparedness.com. We used to sell Baofeng radios until the Canadian government gave me a call and said, hey, what are you doing? You're not supposed to sell those. That was a really bad French impersonation, but it was a guy from Quebec who basically said, you know, you can't be selling those because we don't want you guys overthrowing the government with them. I guess that's, I don't know. Anyways, so that's why I'm seriously considering moving down there and bunking with the All-American Prepper. Even if I am forced to wear a Make Prepping Great Again hat, it might be worth it. Actually, where is that hat? Anyways, guys, enough jabber. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. If you enjoyed the video, Canadian Prepper out. The best way to support this channel is to support yourself by gearing up at CanadianPreparedness.com. Your one-stop shop for premium, high-quality, brand-name products that have been tried and tested by myself and other YouTube gear reviewers. My subscribers save 10% off by using the coupon code SurvivalPrepper. All one word in all caps.